I'm Sophie from The Joyful Web, and I'm joined today by Jen. Hi, Jen. I am joined today by Ben Johnson from 10% Better for part 3 in our Money Matters series. And today we're going to be exploring some tools for success when it comes to pricing. Welcome, Ben, and thank you for joining us again.
Thank you for having me. Great to be here.
So last in the series, we were talking about the ancient Indian practice of pricing, where there is a sliding scale of kind of pay what you can, which is being used more and more during the pandemic. And we were discussing the kind of the ambiguity that can create, and how maybe giving people too many choices isn't always a good thing. Mm-hmm. So could you explain that a little bit more for me?
Yeah, sure. So there's a really interesting thing which is kind of going on. Like you, I'm also really kind of interested in trying to understand more from a kind of ancient perspective how we make decisions around these things, and what you might learn from sort of ideas which have stood the test of time. And I think the whole kind of principles around those kind of ancient practices of paying what you can, of course, kind of really resonate. But the interesting thing that happens when you kind of fast forward that to the kind of world that we live in and everything that we are used to in a kind of Western consumerist society, where we're so kind of bombarded by options and choices and all of these sorts of things. One of the things that you really need to be thinking about when you are selling your services is removing ambiguity, is removing uncertainty. Mm-hmm. Because one of the biggest reasons that a client has for not choosing you is, well, in fact, almost the only reason is really where they're unsure about something. Yeah, they might say it's about price or it's about this, but it's because they're unsure about something. And really our kind of work is removing that ambiguity, is to go from uncertainty to certainty. And whilst the idea of kind of offering a client pay what you can feels really like a generous act, like we're making it easy, actually, in many respects, we're actually making it harder, because we're asking our client, our customer, and like you, I know this firsthand too. I have a business that provides meditation courses, and we've experimented with this loads. And the thing that we sort of found, because we thought it was right and well-meaning to say, well, if you can't pay, you can just do it on the spirit of dana, of generosity. So you don't need to pay for it. But if you can pay and you have the means to pay, then you should, because you are then contributing to the whole. But actually, people don't really know. They then get really sort of stuck. Well, is this enough? Is this the right amount? Should I do more? Should I do less? And you kind of spark a kind of whirlwind of uncertainty and doubt. And the only consequence of that is they walk away. And so there's something really important, actually, whenever we are selling anything, is that we make it easy for our clients, our customers to choose. And this links a lot to what we've spoken about over the kind of preceding sessions, which of course links to the pricing too. What tends to happen a lot when a prospective client or a customer asks us about doing some work for them, we provide them a proposal or some version of that. And we include in the proposal a price for doing the work. But because of kind of the understanding that exists now about how we make decisions about things and how we decide what to do, when we, the brain doesn't really work in absolute values. So I've been sort of playing with this pen. Like, if you ask, nobody really has an idea about what this pen costs. We might have a vague thing in our mind. Oh, I bought one once, it cost this, but the story that we have in our mind about how much this pen costs is really vague, right? And so the brain is not good at absolute values. What the brain needs is a comparison. So rather than I asking you how much is this pen worth, we wouldn't get anywhere. If I then have two other pens and I say this one costs £10, this one costs £5, this one costs £3, then your brain has a comparison, and it needs a comparison to know if it's making a right decision or not.
And interestingly, with that comparison, my brain would go, oh, okay, the £10 one, that's probably going to be like sturdy metal. It's got ink that's probably going to like work and last me longer. It's going to be a more sure investment. like I might not really care that much about my pen, so I might not be ready to make that kind of an investment. But without even seeing the £10 pen, my brain has immediately gone to, oh, that's going to be a better pen. And I think that's the really, really interesting thing about pricing. And it kind of ties everything we've been talking about in this series together in terms of value. Actually, like, you know, our brains do, and obviously we're not saying rip people off, but like we're saying value to the value, which, you know, goes back to the second in the series about asking your clients what they value it to be. But our brains automatically go, the cheaper one's going to be lower quality, the more expensive one's going to be better quality.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And so that is what we do. And so the other thing that's happening as well, the brain is making that sort of judgment. And what you tend to find is when you provide 3 options, say, the brain more often than not, will almost twice the amount of time, will choose the middle option because it feels safer compared to the other 2. And of course, like if you're just extending the pen thing further, which may be a push too far, you know, there will be some people who do want the most expensive pen because, you know, for them, they're starting work in a new place and that they look like they are serious and professional. And, you know, for them, that pen is a signal of all the things they're trying to send to the world. Therefore, it's important that they have the £10 pen. And for somebody else, it's like, pens are not important to me. I don't give a shit about pens. I can have the £3 pen. But most of the time, most of the people will choose the middle price pen, and that happened to be a £5 pen. So if you'd asked me in the beginning, and this may be getting too esoteric, if you'd asked me in the beginning whether you know, it's worthwhile buying a pen for £5, if you'd asked me that without any comparisons, I would never know. If you asked me that with the other things to offset it, I would be confident enough to kind of give you a view. And this is what happens when we're providing proposals. When we just give one proposal, a single proposal with a single price, what we're effectively doing is we're saying to the client or customer, is it good value for this? And they don't know. So they have to get a comparison. And what happens when they have to get a comparison is they go ask another company for the same thing. And then you get stuck in a bidding war between whether you're cheaper than they're cheaper. If you provide choices to a prospective client, you're helping just manage that process. And you mentioned the thing earlier about not ripping off clients. This is not about ripping off clients. It's about making you easier to buy. If you go all the way back to the thing we were speaking about right at the beginning of the first conversation, which was in putting the prices up, we became easier to buy. This is a whole cascading series of things, which you are either making yourself easy to buy or harder to buy. And actually the price that you charge is a big signal, and then how you engage, what your proposals need to do. You need to talk to a range of things. If you're not offering a range of choices, which are choices which benefit the client in different ways, but if you're not offering a range of choices, you are making yourself much, much harder to buy. And the other side, of course, is when you do give a range of choices, there are different prices that come with that. So you're also able to talk to the kind of quality and value that comes with it. But too often we provide one price, and when we provide one price, we're making ourselves really difficult to buy as compared to providing a range. So you should always provide 3 options when you're going to a client with a proposal.
And how might that look in terms of, so would that be kind of like, option number 1 would be like your light package that would achieve what they're looking for, but not in the same amount of detail. Option 2 would be, you know, your kind of mid-range, can do the job, but it's probably not going to be bespoke. And then option 3 would be like bespoke, totally tailored to you, going to get the absolute best results.
Yeah, I mean, it could be like that. So there are a number of ways of doing this. So I think that's why the really important thing when we were talking earlier on, or one of the other the conversations was about how much time you spend discussing these things with your prospective client beforehand. So, you know, in those conversations, you start to really understand what's important to them. And, you know, what might be really important to one client, that they get to spend time with you as the owners of the business. Whereas for other people, it's like, no, I don't care about that. I just want the work done. And so it could be that one of the options then is, you know, one of the kind of premium options, if you're to use that word, is, you know, in your business, okay, Sophie's going to do all of this work, you know, becomes a kind of premium option. So
and she'll be your best friend at the same time.
Exactly, but that would be the ultimate premium option.
Yeah.
the most pricey. But there are different ways of doing it. It could be that you know, there's an element on the kind of the cheaper option, which is, you know, I'm just helping you, the client, do the work yourself. A middle option is there's a kind of bit of a mix between the two. And the most expensive option is I'm doing all the work for you. So the spread might be in that.
Mm-hmm.
Another way of thinking about it often is how much risk you're taking on for the client. If a client is trying to achieve something, you know, a most expensive option is where you are assuming a lot of the risk, where you're guaranteeing a client might get to a particular outcome or a particular benefit. If you are providing guarantees, then the cost, you know, the price for that should be much, much higher. If you're providing no guarantees and you're just doing a bit of work, then the cost of the client would be lower. So there's a whole range of different things based on what's important to the client. But the most important thing is that you've established and learned enough about, obviously, the change that the change that the client is trying to make, what's kind of important to them, why they're considering buying you. And the more you kind of understand it, I was thinking about it the other day, talking about it in the context of a puzzle in some respects. And what should go into any kind of potential engagement with a client is there's all these different pieces of the puzzle. There's the thing that you might provide, which, you know, for some people might be, I provide a website or I provide a PR campaign or whatever it might be. These are sort of outputs. But of course, what a client is really interested in is outcome. Mm-hmm. They want something to change. And that might be a tangible thing. It might be an intangible thing. It's often an intangible thing. And so, but the more you understand the thing that the client wants to change, there will be different ways that you help them get there. And the different ways that you help them get there should talk to the different options that you provide the client.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think that's a really, really valuable tip. I know that the kind of way that we've done things in the past, which has not actually been very successful, is to sort of give this itemized list of almost like you pick and choose what you want. And it's like, actually, like, we're the professionals, we need to be telling them what they need and saying, this is how you can get your results in different ways with different degrees of kind of contact with us, different degrees of expert input from a consultancy perspective. Yeah. So I'm just about to send a proposal later, Ben, and you've just helped me a lot with that. So thank you very much.
Of course.
Are there any other kind of nuggets that you have around how we can go away confidently from watching this video series and not only, you know, price ourselves to what not just we but our clients feel like we're worth, but also to do so in a way that's going to get results?
Yeah, I mean, I guess in my mind there are 5 things always which I think people need to kind of work through. The first of those things is getting out of your own way. Just remembering that actually too much of what we think around money is based on our view. That's not useful to anybody. So we need to get out of our own way and have the courage to try something, right? It's the first thing. The second most important thing is about pricing the client, not the job. Too often, you know, we are in proposal mode. We know we do websites. We know we do campaigns, whatever it might be. We have an idea about what those things would cost. Like we were talking about one of the earlier films, the earlier conversations, you've got to price the client, not the job, because what it is worth to the client will be different for every client. And you need to know that in order to be valuable. So getting out of your own way, pricing the client, not the job. The third thing is always use options that we've spoken about. And I guess the kind of fourth thing which makes sense of the options, for it to make sense of client, it's really important to use price anchoring. Now, we've not really spoken about that very much, but just in a really simple sense, when you are going to a client with 3 options, one of your options should be much more expensive than the other one, because it has the effect of just making sense of the lower priced options. So it's really important when you do provide options, when you're doing your proposal this afternoon, that one of them is anchored at a much, much higher rate. And that's not just about being more expensive. It is about the client ultimately getting more value. But this idea of kind of anchoring is really important. So getting out of your own way, pricing the client, not the job, always using options and anchoring. And then the 5th is just always be useful. That you are, you know, trusting that the work you do is well-intentioned, it's kind of positive, your desire for impact is good, is the most important thing. Because if you're doing that, then you are worth good money. And it's important to keep that in mind. So I guess they're the 5 things I would say to people over and over again.
I love that. Thank you. That's really helpful. And also just so important, because I'm so sure that whoever is watching this has at least at some point had the experience of just feeling completely lost when it comes to valuing themselves. So I really hope that this video series has helped. Ben, how can we find you? What are you doing next? Tell us about you.
Yeah, okay. So you can find me at a very kind of long domain. So 10% Better, and we can stick that. So 10percentbetter.co is where I blog and do most of my writing. And I use a blog mainly to work out what I think about things more than for...
It's a really good blog. Definitely sign up for the newsletter. It's really great.
That's very kind, Sophie. And I also run courses on this. I have 2 courses coming in early October. One which will effectively be a day-long course looking at the principles of everything that we've spoken about here in a little more detail, to introduce people to these concepts so that they can get on and do it. So that's coming early October. And then I've got a small group program which I run for just between 5 and 10 business owners, entrepreneurs, which is also going to start in October, that runs over an 8-week program. So 1 is an introduction, 2 is a kind of smaller group where we work through all of these things in much more detail. The program's called Money Talks. You'll see it on the website. If it looks interesting, register, and when the dates are confirmed, I'm happy to send you information.
Amazing. Thank you very much. And thank you just for your insight and for joining me on this 3-part series. It's been extremely illuminating, and you've given me lots of food for thought for the joyful as well.
Great. Well, happy to do that. Super happy to have been here. Thank you for having me, and hope it's been useful for everyone.
And thank you for watching, and please do let us know in the comments below if and when you have put your prices up and you're getting amazing success, and we want to hear all about your wins. So do let us know in the comments below. Thank you very much, and goodbye.